Hello, hello. Welcome to another beautiful edition of Between You and Me. My name is Tolulope Ibitola, and it's good to be here again. Today is another edition of Between You and Me. Between you and me. And I'm so excited to be here today because today we are on silencing the silence that have been for so long. That does not look your face, whether you are easygoing or not. It brings to you, it throws to you whatever it wishes at any time, even in times that you least expect. So, and that's one of the importance of this program Between You and Me, for people to come to share their experiences so that other people who are going through that would know that they are not in it alone. There are people who are going through it. There are people who have gone through it before. How do they navigate it? How do they manage their way? The ones who are currently going through it, what's their plan to be successful on that path? So that's the essence of this program. And if you're someone who has an impactful story and experience to share with people, of course, you are welcome to Between You and Me to come and shed your light. Come and shed light on someone's path so that they can also navigate their tough times with your help. Okay, I think we can go into the program proper. Today is going to be a long conversation, and then we don't want to spend so much time on things that are not anyway, every aspect of the program is important. So I would like that we please share, comment, ask your questions. It's a safe place to ask yourself your questions, to leave your contributions, to leave your comments, your observation, and the feedback is one thing that helps to get better in life. So we'll be happy to have you do that. Today we're going to be talking about that word that seems like a taboo in many Nigerian homes, and we are going to be creating a judgment-free space to unpack the silence, the shame, and the myths that surround sex in our communities, in our homes, in our environment. And that's what we're going to be doing today. It's a conversation that many people run away from, even many parents. But the good thing is this is an avenue for us to be able to learn how to go about these things, especially speaking with someone who has dedicated so much time in topics like this, and then come out with their own research, with their own findings, and to enlighten our community, to let us know that this is how to go about it. This is what is happening. This is how to go about it. This is how to resolve it. All right. Thank you for taking your time to be here. With all that you have to do, all the responsibilities in your care, you still find it. We find it humbling for you to be here today. Thank you so much. It's a privilege to have you here today, Dr. Yinka. Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's an honor to be on your program live. Thank you so much. Between you and me, I'm here.
Yes, so between you and me, let's be Between You and Me talk today. Tell us a little about yourself, or okay. Tell us much, or what do you think you want us to know about you?
Okay, I'm Oluwayinka Arawomo. So, like my mom would say, Omo Arawomo Aya Enegede. That means the spouse of Enegede. So I'm Dr. Oluwayinka Arawomo. I'm a woman of God, a child of God, a daughter of God. I'm a daughter to my mom and to many. I'm a wife to Martins Enegede. I'm a mother to Nathan and Ethan Enegede. I'm an assistant professor at Millikin University, Illinois. I have the privilege to direct the Writing Center at Millikin University. I'm also the president of the Online Writing Center Association, the professional body that supports professionals that work with online tools to conduct writing center services. I'm an active member in my church at GT Church. What else? I'm a sister to many. I have my Nigerian sister group where we support ourselves, graduate students that are
supporting sister.
Yes, and yeah, even though I've moved away from being a graduate student, they are still dear to my heart, and I hope I can be fully committed to my sisters as a group. But I have other sisters I commit to based on peer mentorship that will support ourselves in this journey of motherhood and being in the academia.
Hey.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction of yours. One thing that struck me most out of everything you have said here now, you are a researcher, and then you belong to a group where your sisters are. When we say sisters here, it's not just by blood.
Yeah.
There's so many ties in common, and then a situation of sisters supporting sisters, like people, and that's one thing about human beings, when we are able to support each other. So, Dr. Yinka, I would like you to tell us how was growing up for you. Yeah. Where did you grow up? What was the journey like? Was it like a silver spoon, born without a silver spoon, or with many golden spoons? So how was it?
Yeah, I don't know about the silver spoon, but I know we had spoon.
Okay, maybe it was a wooden spoon.
I know we had spoon. I grew up in a very in a closely knit family of 5. My mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, and myself. So I'm in the middle. I'm the middle child. My dad was a public school, secondary school teacher. He taught government and economics. He passed in 2010. God rest his soul. And my mom is still in the business, in the school business. So she has 2 schools, elementary schools. So I grew up in the family of teachers, and I've always been involved in their school. During the breaks, I would always go there to teach. So firsthand, I saw my parents, who are very dedicated teachers. So even though my dad was working in the public school, and as we know public school to be in Nigeria, especially back then, he was so dedicated that we remember him writing a lot on the board, and he had his hand, stiff from too much of writing.
Wow.
And you don't expect him to be that committed, because what is the pay? But he was that committed. I saw some of his lesson notes, well detailed. He was a very sacrificial person. So I had good models as parents. My mom, she's also like a very strong woman. She modeled what it means to be strong, what it means to be a solid woman who cares for her family, at the same time who takes work seriously. So just finding that balance, I learned that also from my mom. And since my dad passed in 2010, she was the one that stepped in. She had always been there, but she had greater responsibilities.
Yeah.
That myself and my 2 siblings, we graduated from school, both first degree and second degree. So I had most of my time with my family before I got my Fulbright
scholarship.
Yeah, opportunity to come to the US to teach Yoruba. Then I've been in the US also since 2017, from being a Fulbright scholar to being a PhD student and now being a faculty. So yeah, that's my academic.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so
So
much
yeah,
for
that's
that
growing up.
introduction.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much for that introduction. So, there's something you said today. First, okay, we want to acknowledge your mom for a well done job. Like, that's doing a job that belongs to two people, taking it upon herself,
Yeah.
and then that's a lot. Someone who has a glimpse of that would understand the extent of what you're talking about. So,
Yeah.
I want to say thank you to mommy for having to. There's so much sacrifice that she would have to make, compromises that she would have to make. Yeah, we say thank you, and we also say thank you to you too for not letting all the sacrifices to go in vain. Because it's one thing for parents to be responsible, to want to give all their best. It's another thing for the kids to be willing to take up that responsibility on their own part as well. So we say thank you. Something you said you went to the US. We'll start that conversation, but I just wanted to teach Yoruba. How come? Because I know you, Dr. Yinka was a year ahead of me in Ife. So, and I knew how to be in English department. Were you not in English department?
I was. I was. And
When I heard that you went to teach Yoruba, at what point did the narrative change? What happened?
Yeah, so the Fulbright Foreign Language Teaching Assistantship is open to students who have their background in English linguistics, and also Yoruba. So it's an exchange program where you come to the US to teach your mother tongue. So I had my background in English, that qualified me, and so I was somewhat a teacher of English, so that qualifies me. But I want to say something about opportunities.
Exactly, that's where I'm driving at. People who are listening, you can also gain something from that aspect. Please go ahead.
Yes, so opportunities, sometimes the dots are there. It's later that you can start connecting the dots. I remember back then in church, one of our interpreters, God rest his soul now, the main interpreters were out for a crusade. And so he was the only one, and I saw that he was struggling, to just keep up with all of the interpreting. So I had to ask the coordinator that, do you mind me interpreting so that I can support Brother Roberts of Blessed Memory? And he said, okay. And so Yoruba is my mother tongue. We try to speak Yoruba. And because I did some courses in social linguistics, multilingualism, that helped me think through the negative attitude we had to Yoruba then. Oh, Maso Yoruba, or we get punished for speaking Yoruba. So I had to shift from taking these courses to embracing our mother tongue. So back to the church story, I volunteered to help, just to assist him and make sure that the work is not too much for him. And I was interpreting the way I knew how to. It was convenient if the pastor preached in Yoruba, and I had to interpret in English because that was what I was studying. But it was harder if he preached in English and I had to interpret in Yoruba. I remember I wanted to say that the eyes of the Lord goes to and fro, looking, I said, Ojoluwa Nkoyi. That means God is dizzy. So that was how I started, even though I was not great at it when I started. I just continued. And the second opportunity was when I was working with a market research firm in Nigeria. We had to accompany some P&G workers. They were white, to Shagamu to interpret. There was a research then to speak to young girls that had children. And so I was there to interpret for them. So this was even before I didn't even have a dream I would come here. So I don't want to say I had any dream. Even before the opportunity came to apply for the Fulbright, these were two experiences where I found myself in a position to use my mother tongue, and I did. And so with studying Yoruba, a little bit of it in secondary school, and preparing for the Fulbright itself, reading and just ensuring that I'm prepared and empowered to teach, So that was how I found my way from English to being
So
able
Yoruba.
to teach Yoruba. And it's the communicative, teaching Yoruba as communicative means. So that was why I was able to fulfill my role in that. So it's just taking charge of the opportunity I saw then. And so it now served me when it was time to be a Fulbright scholar in the US.
Thank you so much for that, for enlightening us on that. And that speaks to taking opportunity, whatever. And even before we find the opportunity, like whatever, wherever we find ourselves, we should be useful. We never can tell what that moment is preparing us for.
Yeah.
And then when the opportunity comes, we are not found wanting because we had prepared ourselves in the past, and then opportunity comes and we take it as if we had even been waiting for it before. Thank you so much again. And then I want to go back to your growing up with all the things that you told us. Your teacher, you know how teachers can be so strict, and even though there are some of them can, even if they are quiet, you still see that aspect of a disciplinarian in them. Yeah. And then it comes to someone who grew up in that environment with that kind of understanding, and then how did you get into a research of sex? What were you looking for exactly that got you into that part?
Yeah, it's a question of what were you looking for?
Because if someone would see, so sorry, if someone sees you and they'll be like, Yinka cannot, what? No, Yinka, so reserved, so conservative, she can't, that's not something that you would ever dive into. And then this is the same Yinka that's propagating this good news of on silencing this talk that we've all wanted, that we've all tried to run away from. So how did you get on that part?
Yeah, so this is me also asking viewers and listeners to do their own sexual literacy narrative. It's a way of analyzing your background with conversations about sex. So to be clear, my work is mainly on sexual discussions, sexual conversations, because the language is communication. So I like to make clear what I do to make my work different from maybe an expert in teaching you how to have good sex. So, but my argument is that sex, the way we talk about sex or not talk about it, can as well impact our experiences, our knowledge, our beliefs about sex. So let me go back to my own sexual literacy narrative. I grew up in a Christian home, and some would call it a conservative Christian home, whatever that means. So growing up, I didn't have that conversation with my mom where we sat down and had that conversation as far. Now, this is what you're expected to do as you grow up, as you've hit puberty, you're now menstruating. But like other women in my research study, we had this common thing we all heard. If a man touches you, you will get pregnant. It's a different version, but it's the same thing. Don't let a man touch you. So as a woman growing up in Nigeria, you might have heard this version of don't let a man touch you. And it was interesting that among more than 50 women I spoke with, I just realized that, this thing was common. I thought I only heard it, but
that was the word on the street then.
Yeah. And so other than that, I can't remember any formal, intentional conversation about sex growing up. The other thing was topics like menstruation, When I started my menstruation, I was 14 years old. So you can imagine from 0 to 14, no conversation about sex. And you go to middle school, the one we call junior secondary, senior secondary, high school. It's not so much in the curriculum. So when we hear about sex, it's more about the biology aspect of it. And I can't even think about what we taught. And so, tracing the conversation from primary to secondary, even to university, there are no intentional, conversations about sex. So it's common. We hear that there is a cultural silence about sex, especially for girls and women in Nigeria. And so most of the women I spoke with, we shared that similar growing up experiences. And this is rooted in our culture, right? It's about omoluabi, it's about being raised well. And it also has to do with religion, especially if you are practicing Christian or Muslim. So when we go to the church also, we don't see these conversations. And what do we see? It's more of punishment, it's more of silencing. And we are humans, we have the sexual part of us. Even with my 4-year-old, I can see the curiosity that is beginning to have towards his penis. And so you can see how I'm calling all of these body parts intentionally. Penis, vagina, it's not common, it's titi, toto, and yeah. So my point is, growing up, I didn't have that conversation, whether with my mom or dad, whether in school, and even I remember at the university level, because it had been ingrained in me that we were not supposed to talk about sex. It's not a conversation you want to have. In the church, it's more of punishment. Maybe someone did abortion and they brought the person to the front as an example, a scapegoat. That is what I
have to sit at the back of the church.
Yes. Or you get pregnant before marriage. The way you responded to those are the things I saw. And so that was what when I even came in for my PhD, I didn't know I would go into studying sexual conversations. I had my background in gender-based violence, experiences that women go through using the internet, the digital media to talk about it. That's what I do broadly. But after some readings, I realized that, there is cultural silence about sex. There is academic silence about sex. So that's how I found my way to sexual conversation research.
All right. Thank you so much. And then now you are here telling us about the good news. So with what you've mentioned now, it's a common thing amongst homes, especially let's make our focus Nigerian homes now, that this talk is not common. People don't want to, they always shy away from it. And what do you think is the reason? With your research, what do you think has been the reason why sex is silent in home, why our parents do not discuss it with us?
Yeah, so the first will be parental upbringing. Like I've given you what my own upbringing looked like. And in addition to that, we must understand that our parents did not have, their own parents have this conversation with them. So it's a question of how do we navigate this? There is also
the question is, why do you think parents are not having this conversation?
Yeah. Number one, they are not equipped to have the conversation because their parents did not have such conversation with them. So looking at it from the generational perspective. So number two is the fear. There is this fear that if we talk about sex, then you are encouraging that child to explore. And this is not true. Because as long as you are human and you begin to have the sexual awareness in your body, you're feeling horny, your body is moving. What do you do with this? So if you don't have LD channel, trusted channels, safe spaces where you can talk about this. Although we say that there is cultural silence about sex in Nigeria, I want to tell you that the sex is loud. It's very loud. It's loud in the media. It's loud in the musical lyrics. It's loud in some of the home videos we see. And it's loud in terms of pornography. So, and the internet makes this even more accessible. So if you're not having this conversation at home, we are having it somewhere else. So the fear that if you talk about sex, you are doing sex. So confusing those two things, like your curiosity about sex means you want to engage in sex, right? So that is part of it, the fear. And I also believe that parents have good intent. They want to protect. They really want to protect. Even as a mom, I'm asking what ways are healthy to talk about these things called sex or sexual matters to my 6-year-old. And we've started with menstruation. That's a different conversation. So there is this, I feel the fear that you may have that what is too much, right? So the fear, the socialization, the way we see sex is very important. And so if you are not married, you are not supposed to talk about sex because it's for married people. Yeah. So the belief of who should be talking about sex also impacts why we don't talk about it. And so I think it's not been equipped to have that conversation, number one, based on your own upbringing. You then repeat that for your own children. The second thing is just the fear that if I talk about it, it would expose this child to what the child is not supposed to know. And just the socialization, then the religious part of it that intertwines with all of this, you know, what we believe sex is for and who should be talking about it.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much for that. I would like to go back to that statement, like if you're not married, you're not supposed to be talking about this. And I think it's one of the reasons why people are shying away from this. Like you mentioned, like, so when you talk about it, it is assumed that it's something you do. Mm-hmm. So, and then people don't want to be put in that box of, that's having sex before marriage. That idea of having sex before marriage, is it cultural, from the cultural and religious aspect? Do you think it has helped more marriages, or I know it's very controversial, but from your own angle and the research that you've made, do you think it has helped more people, or vice versa? How helpful has it been with that idea?
Yeah, so the research says that the sexual debut, maybe it's debut or DEBUT, the first sexual encounter we are seeing is at the age of 13. And I was back in Lagos when I had a conversation with this 13-year-old. It just made me remember that she said she's already sexually active. If we see lots of research on sex among adolescents and among young adults, we'll see that even though there is the expectation, the cultural norms we call it, about not having sex before marriage, purity, abstinence, it does not say that people are not having sex. And the sad thing again is because we don't have these conversations, and because people are turning to other sources that are not credible, the effect of that is misinformation, is being naive, especially for the girls. They are taken advantage of. And we then see premarital sex happening, but happening in an unsafe way that exposes girls and young women to, diseases. And more importantly, they cannot advocate, like have the agency to say, oh, even if you want to have sex with me, you have to use a condom, So it's again, not talking about it does not mean we have more pure or more virgins, right? So because it's something that is happening, and not everybody shares the religious belief that sex should be in marriage. So if we're having just conversation about abstinence, just about avoid, and we are not talking about we don't have conversations about safe sex practices, because you feel if you talk about safe sex, you would encourage someone who is interested. So we see all of these. And another thing that came from the research was, being abused sexually. A number of women are abused sexually, especially from a young age. And you cannot make sense of it as abuse because nobody spoke to you about your vagina should not be inappropriately touched without your consent. So because you don't have all these conversations, you can't even name an uncle that is playing with your vagina. You can't name it as sexual abuse. You're not talking about rape. So because sex itself is shrouded in silence, imagine the sexual things that are associated, the hurt, the abuse that we can't even talk about, again, because of victim blaming. So not talking about sex at the appropriate, in age appropriate and timely way is doing more harm. So that's just to talk about how it impacts your knowledge of yourself. And at the same time, we've not even started talking about women's pleasure now. That is the main thing. But the not knowing, being naive, not being able to understand what safe sex is. If you choose to have sex, these are the important conversations we must be having.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, so it's us being able to use our agency, but if you do not even know that you have one, how do you want to use it? So that's the idea. We talked about this many myths that like if a boy touches you, a man touches you, you are pregnant in here, and when you are pregnant, just know that your own has finished. No school again, no things, and so many myths that you might also know about. And I remember when we had this conversation amongst ladies, we realized that was what almost every one of us was told. And then it makes us want to say that, please, where did our parents get this thing from? And what are the other myths you know? And do you think these myths do more damage than good from your research? All these things, like don't let the boy touch you, don't let the man touch. If he touches you, you are pregnant. So what are the other things that you've heard or during your research, other things that ladies were told? And this conversation, I think, shouldn't just be about ladies as well. The men should also understand, because when they understand, they are able to help. Whatever knowledge they have would automatically transfer to their sister, to their partners, to their wives, to their daughters, and it helps to make a wholesome society. So this conversation is not just about ladies. Every one of us, this lesson, listen attentively. So this myth that we've been told until today, do you think it's helped? For me, if you don't know any other thing, if there's only one thing you know, probably I might be able to say it helped me to some extent, like that so you are on your own, and then it helps you to be focused that this is not what you want to do because you don't want to get pregnant. But do you really think there's more percentage of people who that helped, or we should discontinue, or there's a better way to make this thing expressive to our younger ones?
Yeah, so the don't let a man touch you, it's like the one conversation, and I even don't want to call it a conversation because you dare not exchange your ideas with your parents. It was a warning, so it's not so much of a conversation. It was just a warning to avoid sex, and the touch is used figuratively, but we took it literally. I had women that said that she was literally running from classmates that were male just because of that information, and it also shaped the perception of some women about men, that they are just out there to prey on them. And so that's what that statement does. And other statements that came up in the research was sex is for childbearing. Kilo wafu, BB is to give birth. Another one is sex is a duty to your husband. So they'll tell you that men likes two food. It's both the literal food and sex as food. So when he comes and he says, I want to have sex, whether you feel like or not, you have to
because when someone is hungry, they have to eat.
eat.
So
And so the other one we have is like men like sex more than women, and so you have to make sure that you satisfy your husband. Otherwise, he's going to do what? He's going to look outside. He's going to cheat on you. And so some of these statements, if we look at it, it's focused on one person, on satisfying the desire of the men. And the research shows that women are at the disservice because, one, you were not raised to talk about sex, and suddenly on your wedding night you are expected to know how to have good sex, right? So we also hear stories of women, for instance. Part of the story we hear then is like, there's this particular one that got married, and because she had no previous experience, whether it's knowledge from reading or even someone sitting down and talking with her, she went into the marriage and she got her vagina torn, like, pure. And that kind of a woman, you don't expect her to see the penis the next time and to embrace sex. So it has a way of affecting psychologically when you are not prepared, in terms of you've grown up with silence, and suddenly there is this expectation for you to fulfill your marital role as a good wife that gives sex to your husband anytime, anywhere. And so I'm trying to speak in a way that is, I like breaking down research to what is understandable and meaningful that we can use, and not just as if I'm speaking to other academias.
Yeah.
The conversations we have are limited, and they are based out of fear, and it instills fear inside the woman. One of my participants, I can't forget that story. She said for 4 to 5 months after the marriage, she was running away. Whenever her husband says, let's have sex, she's like, no. She would always find an excuse. She would always bring up quarrel so that night would not happen. And the question is like, what do you think sex is about? Where do you think I'm going to put the penis? I didn't know it's going to be like that, right? There was no conversation about, okay, should you use lubrication? How can you get wet and something? None of that, all she was doing is running away, until she went back to her mom and she's like, I can't do this. Then the mom apologized, like, I thought you knew. So how do you want us to know? So she said, I was 29. I often use that quote because it stuck to me. I was 29 and yet I was afraid to have sex. And she was lucky to have a supportive husband that was able to, understand where she's coming from. Some men don't understand where the woman is coming from. You are coming from silence. You are coming from being naive. And suddenly they want you to perform at a pro level. If it's even about performance. And we've not even started the conversation about my own pleasure, my own sexual pleasure, my own orgasm as a woman. This is about duties. This is about giving birth, giving and giving and giving. And let's also remember that it is rooted in some of our gender norms. And I also want to say that regardless of whether we are Nigerian or African, at least I've spoken with some African American, young people, that every culture has some form of sexual norms that shapes how you see sex, what you can do, what you can say. So it's not about, oh, this is African or this is Nigerian, but some are limiting, especially for the women, in terms of their sexual needs, desire, and pleasure. So I don't think the current state of conversation is helpful, because if we are asking, now even restricted to the marital context, the highest number of conflicts that we are having, it can be tied somewhat to the sexual matters in the house. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. You said something towards the end now that this conversation is not a thing about just a Nigerian or African, but I realize with my own things that I have seen, it seems like it's something that is more open in the Western world. You would see a 13-year-old, even it's not even up to 13 years old, even in schools, elementary schools, they start teaching them these things. And another thing, I think the way they also even encourage it is I have a son in the higher elementary. I remember that when they started, they have an email, they would send their email passwords to the parents, like the younger ones. But when they go to a particular class, you don't have access to that email. When you ask, like, what is the password for this email, they will tell you to ask the child. This is a child. So I'm like, why is this privacy? So if you do not have a good rapport with your child at that point, a lot will be going on that you would not even be aware of, because they have a way of shielding these kids. So you really have to be very intentional. And then I want to think that this topic now, I think it is more silenced in the African society than it is in the Western world. Or what do you think?
Yeah, you've touched a number of things with the privacy, especially we call it FEPA, such that even if I'm a professor in my child's school, I can't just access the record of my child, That's the agency, the privacy we are talking about. Yeah, and so if we are doing that for academic record, imagine other aspects. And I think what it also hints at is the different way we approach sex in schools. So I know that the curriculum, they start them early year on important conversation.
Exactly.
So, we had the earlier part of the abstinence only conversation where in the West they try to push back that don't just talk about abstinence, talk about safe sex practices. And also in the mix is other conversations about sexuality. That's that is a whole different conversation. So the contexts are truly different, and it's evolving. It's not as if it's static. Of course, even in the Nigerian space, more conversations are happening. If you look at social media, for instance, or other platforms where there are more conversations about sex. But that cultural silence is still hanging. Even in schools, parents will respond differently if we say that, in the Nigerian schools we want to really go into these sexual topics, abstinence, but more importantly, safe sex. There will be parents that would push back, again, because of our cultural and religious background. But I think we are seeing improvements. I remember going to my mom's school and I saw, this was in 2022, or was it the one I went 2023? But I remember I saw one textbook talking about my body, my privacy. And there were key issues that were being discussed, and that gave me so much joy that yes, we are making progress in ensuring that this conversation is happening. And I also had a workshop with some of their parents to talk about the importance of creating that safe space for your kids. And like you said, if you are in the West, you need even that being even more intentional, because the degree to which the society protects, and I'm always mindful of the words I use because I work within the Western and the African space. So if there's a way the society can protect a woman, for instance, right? There's a way the society can protect the children, and the other society may not do the same. So that makes that makes it different. The way would, as a woman, what I can do here, and as a woman, what I can do at home will be slightly different beyond me, because I have some backup as a society to protect me. It's not all perfect. And so focusing on the Nigerian context, it's a conversation that both male and female, young and old, we need to have. It should be age appropriate. And one thing I found from the study was the importance of safe space. In the sense that you should be able to talk about these things without fear that, oh, mom or dad is going to punish me, would spank me because I asked question about, mommy, I was feeling somehow in my body. My body was moving, even though if you don't know it's been on it, right? Your child should be able to come home and have that, mommy. Yeah, some of my friends, I saw them talking about this. And the reaction most women got in the study was like spanking, yelling, and all those drama. And because of that drama, you would never bring up such conversation with your parents again. But if the space welcomes you, I remember he was 5-year-old then, he was asking that, mommy, he was in the bathroom and I was changing my pad. Mommy, what is this? I said, oh, Nathan, this is pad. Oh, mommy, did you have an injury? Why is there blood on your pad? I said, oh, it's called menstruation. So is he 6 years old now? I can say, Nathan, go help me bring my pad. And the last time he was like, mommy, can we go to the pool? I said, I can't go to the pool. He said, why? I said, I'm menstruating. He said, okay. I said, if I get into the pool, you know what that means. I said, you can sit at the edge of the pool. You don't have to get in. And it's true, but I have a 4-year-old that I must be in the pool with him because he's more adventurous. So you can see for a boy child that he has seen his mommy doing menstruation. And you can also see how I'm talking about these things that are taboo, calling it their name in the literal sense to normalize it. I feel that kind of child will feel free to ask questions. And I also know that I need to read more about boys' sexuality. So my next step is to get books that would help me understand how to, help them, boys, especially when that phase comes. So I just feel is the space we create to nurture the curiosity of our children, is the space we create to have these conversations in age-appropriate way. So I think it's really important.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. So it's almost 1 hour and we've not even talked about women's sexuality and pleasure. And do you think that we would not have to do a second part of this conversation, because it's 4 minutes into before 1 hour now, and then there's still so much to talk about here. But before we even conclude on that one, is there a particular age? I know you mentioned your child being 6 and you're already having this conversation. Is there an age too young, too old, that this conversation can start? And how do you think we can start this conversation? For some people, you are well learned, and for someone who hasn't done so much research or in this field, and then they need to have this conversation with their own kids, how do we begin this conversation? How do we start? And at what age do you think is advisable to start this conversation?
Yeah, I think in terms of age is when you see that your child is beginning to have questions. Kids are really curious, especially the kids we have these days. And it's when they're in the bathroom and they are like, there'll be some questions about, mommy, why do I have a penis? And why is this different from you? Mommy, is that your breast? These are there's a way you can shun them, like that kind of talk about it. So when you see the readiness in terms of they are curious, you answer them in a way that is healthy in a way that has this balance. And it's never too, there is no young or too old an age to have this conversation. And even this conversation is even more important now for young adults, whether you're a man or a woman. Because you're raised differently as a man, and there is this privilege of men talking about sex as something of prowess, something of power, something of positive, a positive attitude to it. But if a woman talks about it in certain ways, you're like, you begin to form judgment about who she is, like sport, she's like some of the words, sport, brat. And I even think it's at this age we need to start asking ourselves, like, what did I learn about sex that is not serving me as a woman? And at the same time, what are my expectations about sex as a man that, one, my woman has a different upbringing and experience? How can I begin to create space for her? Instead of seeing that you don't like doing sex, it's a whole yes. How can we be open-minded enough to create that space where the woman don't feel judged, to talk about, I'm not in the mood, I don't even feel like having sex, I don't know why. And you begin to find answers together. Okay, is it the pill you're using? Is it your birth control thing? Is it too much of work? Are you stressed out? So there is no age too young or too old. And I even feel it is now as adults that we need to begin to have that critical engagement with ourselves first. Like, how was I raised, and how is this impacting my sexual knowledge, beliefs, and practices? And at the same time, what do I need to do differently? Do I need to read books on experts that have dedicated their career to doing this? Do I need to call my spouse, for instance, and ask her, like, are you being satisfied? And I even hate that question. Are you being satisfied? Who's satisfying you? So not age too young or too old, but I think we just need to do that work off.
All right. No age is too young to start that conversation. As soon as we say that these kids have been inquisitive, have been curious, then we begin to chip in this conversation, these words, and like at the beginning of the conversation, you talked about agency, and the place of agency would not be useful if we do not even know that we have it. So if you have the understanding, you know where you belong, you know what you do, that's when you'll be able to use the agency. There are so many things that we still want to talk about. It's 1 hour already. Should we go ahead with another 10-15 minutes? Is that okay, Yinka?
That's fine.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And before we go into the other aspect, which we're going to be talking about pleasure, I want to quickly talk about. There was a time you talked about parents not allowing their kids to be involved to talk. When kids do not have a safe place, then they're not free to express themselves. And that's why you see that a lot of kids are being molested, are being abused, and then they're not able to open up. And these are the kids that then go into the society and then get messed up, because these conversations are not there. There's no safe place for them to have conversations with their parents. And some people would even have the courage to tell their parents that this person did this to me, and they tell them to keep quiet. I remember a time while I was serving in Ibadan, there was a school that served, and we were into this, how do I forget this? How do I forget this name? And then we go to schools, educating people, kids, the students, sex education, peer group. I just omitted the name now. And then there was this girl I had the opportunity to meet, and this girl said she was raped by someone she knew, that the family knew. And then because this girl the father was a pastor, she was asked to do what? To keep quiet. Nobody must hear about it. Because who hears that a child of a pastor was raped? What were you doing? How did you get there? And these are the things that, that gives room to immorality, and also all sorts of insecurity in the society. As parents, please, let's listen to our children. Let's help them. If they say that something is wrong with someone, even adults, they are not safe with an adult, please, let's understand. Do not let us tell them to keep quiet, please. And then the aspect of children, get parents thinking that their kids are too young. I remember the time that when my child was in grade 3 and they wanted to start this education with them in school, they sent letters home. Please, if you do not want your children to be part of this education, kindly let us know so that we'll excuse them when we're having this conversation. And then you see a lot of African parents say, no, I don't want them to involve my parents, my children, and then this and that, because the way they will teach them is different. And then you ask them, are you yourself having this conversation with them? Say, no, not yet. And my child, the one even told me, the child was like, was it 11 then? Said that my child does not even understand what sex means. I don't even think he has even heard that. And then what education are you giving a child of 11 years in this Western world, saying that does not even know what sex means? This child will eventually go out. They will hear it. They play with their children and everything. So I want to encourage parents, please, every opportunity we have, let's help them. Let's help them. Like what we did in our home case, we've been having this conversation with our boys. So it wasn't hard when they said they were going to have it in school. So that when you come back, or any day they were going to have it Wednesday, what did you people talk about today? Anyone that I think like is being extreme, zero that one out. The ones that we want you to stay with are the ones that you continue with. And so may God help us. I know that parenting is not easy, but God will help us. Now, can we talk about pleasure and still be seen as moral people? Is it possible to say, I want pleasure and you feel like I'm not wild?
Yeah. Well, pleasure for women, and again, the common thing is like women's orgasm. But let's talk about pleasure generally, not just in terms of orgasm. I think it's back to the question of how do we see sex and where do we get that perspective from? I'm a Christian and I understand what the Bible says about sex. Like, I should keep myself pure. If I'm married, I stick to my spouse, I'm faithful. So I understand the root of my own sexual beliefs. But when I was growing up, the way we talked about sex was simply for giving birth, ensuring that my husband is satisfied, submitting to my husband also in terms of sex. Okay. And so the conversations were never there about sexual pleasure for women. We say that we are silent about sex. That's a dimension. Now the second dimension is even complete silence about women's sexual pleasure. Most of the conversations, most of the learning, the socialization is in favor of the man. How to satisfy him. And do we have sexual needs as women? Oh yes. Does your body move as a woman? Not generalizing all women, because again there is the dimension of health and sex, there's the dimension of disability and sex, and there's the dimension of sexuality and sex. So I'm acknowledging all of these nuances and complexity, but I'm saying that as a woman who chooses to have sex, right? And even in the context of marriage now, where it is acceptable, what are the struggles we are finding there? All of this socialization and ways we learn about sex and talk about sex is indeed impacting what we know about sex. And for women that have additional roles of taking care of the children, you are so tired such that even if he brings his penis at night or whatever, that is the last thing on your mind.
You want to think about.
But can you have conversations about why at the moment I don't just feel like having sex? Can that woman do that in that space? That is the question.
Why won't you feel like having sex when it's your responsibility as a wife, not to deny your husband?
That is the narrative. It's not supposed to be. Another one, can I suddenly ask my husband, guy, tonight we are going to have sex? I don't want to use all the, we are going to Jerusalem, we are going to, I'm being plain, just to understand and to also practice the theory of normalizing sexual, but our body as just normal. Okay, my guy, husband, tonight, especially when it's in the acceptable context, as a wife, can you tell your husband, I feel like having good sex tonight? Or
so are there times that there are no good sex?
There are no good sex. When sex is to fulfill duty, is that good sex? when sex is all about the man and you don't get to heaven and come back, is that good sex?
Okay, let's go.
Yeah. So when you cannot just when you cannot just be yourself with your partner, your sexual partner, when you cannot just be, when you are so conscious of your body, the baby fat, for instance, the body, for instance, it's there are many things packed into it. When you are not in that space where you can just be you, to say that, okay, I wasn't satisfied tonight for some reason, I didn't feel what we did. Not tonight, we have sex any time of the day, right? So I don't want to say night only.
And that's another conversation.
So for some reason, if you cannot tell your guy that one you did was your own, when is it going to be time for my own? When you cannot be playful, when you cannot be, in tune, when you cannot be vulnerable, when you cannot learn together.
The word.
It's rooted more beyond sex. It's the quality of your relationship. It's the kind of space you are in. It's the hierarchy that you have in that relationship where you have to keep quiet about your own needs. So these things are rooted beyond sex. It's also the dynamics of the relationship you have. Are you valued? Are you respected? Do you matter? Does your pleasure matter to your man? Or does he not care about it as long as he's satisfied? So these are the questions that we should be asking about the woman's pleasure.
So seeking pleasure does not make you immoral. It's just a human, and then you have to express your humanity as well. Dr. Yinka, thank you so much. This conversation will have to be going about on it, and then let's come again so that we'll have time, because now I don't want it to be too long, and then the essence of it is then lost. So let's have another session for it, and then we'll dwell more on that aspect of the pleasure, the agency, the satisfaction, or any kind. And people, please, I would like us to bring our conversations, bring our contributions, our questions, and our observation in the society. Let's come here to talk about it. Let's silence this word, sex, that has eaten deeply into our society and is doing a lot of havoc. The silence is doing a lot of havoc. That is why we have people, young ones, pushed out with less self-dignity, self-respect, because they've been molested, they've been abused, and then they are not able to, their confidence is lost. So, but when people have this knowledge, they have this understanding, they're able to come out, able to express themselves. And that's why we see boys, men talking that I've done this with, I've slept with that girl. Did you just sleep with the girl? Wasn't that both of you that slept with each other? So those are the conversations that we have to start talking about, especially women and girls. Let no one steal your dignity away from you, all because of this words that we're running from sex. We'll have to come back to this conversation. so that we can have a more dedicated time to analyze, to examine these issues, and then see how we can help our society. Dr. Yinka, before we come back for the next episode, what word would you like us to go with today?
Yeah, my final word for today will be,
It's semi-final. The final one will be this in the next
yeah,
episode.
my semi-final word for today would be, as a woman, just sit back and think about your sexual upbringing and ask yourself, what do you need to learn, relearn, just to ensure that you are better equipped to have a good and pleasurable sex life. And as a man, it's also important for us to acknowledge our privileges and how we've been raised differently from the women in our lives, and to create that space where we can have these conversations and ensure that we are both serving the interest of each other in the relationship. And
Thank
yeah, to sexual pleasure for women. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Everybody understanding their assignment, their place, and it helps us to be better people, to have better relationships, better friendship, better family, which extends into better society. So I'll be closing with this, that sex shouldn't be a source of shame. It shouldn't be shame. It's a God-given enablement, even though there are times and places, but it's not a thing of shame. And then it should be a space for truth, for care, for understanding, and agency. We all deserve a safe place to talk about this thing, and then to be accepted, to be valued as well. On this note, we'll be ending today's conversation on between you and me, and going to have the next episode. We'll let you know when we're going to have the next one, and then so we can continue this conversation and touch on the those other key places for more on the adult areas. Thank you again. My name is Tolulope Hibitola, and see you again. You have a wonderful week.